Raptors Brothers and Sisters, the Raptors just may have done it. They just may have broken the championship code that the Boston Celtics used, even though we did not get the result that we wanted in this game. Now you're probably wondering, what is this championship code, aka X Factor, that Civ is referring to? And honestly, most people are going to defer to the things that the Boston Celtics did well to win that championship, aka the 3-point shooting. And unfortunately, that is not the X Factor that I'm going to be referring to, even though the game time winner by Jason Tatum in overtime was a sight to behold, and it's only something that Jason Tatum can pull off. Even with that, I don't think that is the X Factor. And honestly, when I think about the X Factor that I'm going to be telling soon, it's something that the Boston Celtics used up to their championship year, but coming into this season, it was, for lack of a better word, brushed under the rug. And the Celtics were able to win even without it because the whole team was shooting at a high 3-point percentage range. And in order to figure out what that X Factor is, you need to check out the rest of this video, because I'll be not only one telling what that X Factor is, number two, I'll be telling how the Raptors use that X Factor to their advantage, and number three, I'll be telling how the NBA can benefit off the X Factor as well. So, without further ado, let's get started. You're probably wondering, if it's not the 3-point shooting, what else could be the thing that is the X Factor? And honestly, it's really something that is really forgotten by the Boston Celtics, which is their defense. Now, the reason why I say defense is because if you noted during the Boston Celtics championship run that happened last year, especially in the Eastern Conference Finals and the Finals, the Boston Celtics really didn't pull away from the games just off 3-point shooting alone. And that is because, one, the opponents who reached the Eastern Conference Finals and Finals, they are very talented in their own right. But more importantly, when they had a bad shooting night, they could rely on the defense to not only offset the opponent, but more importantly, when they had a lead, they could use the defense to just leverage their lead and just open new ways to score, which ultimately helped them win that championship. Because when the opponents are kind of out of the place and in a whole frenzy, with the amount of experience that the Boston Celtics had in those types of situations, it just made it a whole lot easier for them to win that championship. But coming into this season, that was not the case, because for some reason the Boston Celtics thought that shooting threes as a collective was the easiest way, and kudos to them for making it this far by doing that strategy, because the whole team was shooting at a very high percentage from 3, and just off that alone they were able to just come away with lots of wins. But unfortunately, against the Raptors, well, to put it simply, the Boston Celtics had a bad shooting night. And on top of that, because they didn't have defense, or not that they didn't have defense, but their defense was very rusty, they really couldn't capitalize off that. Now granted, the Boston Celtics have some injuries, being Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, which are two key defenders for the Boston Celtics. But even so, since the Boston Celtics are a championship team, you'd think that 1 through 12 for the Boston Celtics, they would have a little bit of defense in their arsenal ready to go at any given time, because that is also a thing that helped them get that championship. But unfortunately, that was not the case. And that benefited the Raptors because we were able to expose that. Now, how did we expose that? Well, let's talk about it now. Now, how did the Raptors counter this opportunity that the Boston Celtics was giving them? Simple. They did the 1-2 punch for every opportunity that the Boston Celtics gave them. What I mean is, whenever the Boston Celtics hit a 3, the Raptors did the 1-2 punch on the other side of the court, whether that be attacking the rim and getting a foul, or getting a mid-range and getting a foul. Either way, they were doing that 1-2 punch, because in both situations, they were trying to get the Boston Celtics into foul trouble. And honestly, while I was watching these events unfold, it kind of reminded me of the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, because just as how in the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, Mike Tyson would throw a right hook or left hook to Jake Paul, and Jake Paul would counter using the 1-2 punch to throw Mike Tyson off his game. In the same regard, in this Boston Celtics versus Raptors game, you can really tell that every time the Boston Celtics missed a three, the Raptors really made them pay for it by getting and ones, and you can tell especially in the second half that it started to throw them off the course and they started to tap into unfavorable decisions that they needed in order to win this game. So shout out to the Raptors for understanding this and continuing to play hard and things of that nature, because not only did it really throw the Boston Celtics off the game, but more importantly, it just showed the type of character that the Raptors had, and we can definitely use that against any opponent we have down the line as well. Now, while we're talking about the Raptors, shout out to two specific players from the Raptors that really played their hearts out in this game. Number one is RJ Barrett, and number two is Jakob Poeltl. First, in RJ Barrett's case, congrats to him for getting his first ever triple-double of his career, and honestly, what a way to get it, because he was more of the playmaker as always in this game, and against a formidable team like the Boston Celtics, who are coming off a championship here, to be able to dish dimes the way he did and things of that nature, oh boy, he was really feeling everybody, and you could really tell that the whole team was on the same page, especially in that second half, because that's not only when the whole team turned it up against the Boston Celtics, but more importantly, in RJ Barrett's case, he understood that in order to have the best chance of winning against the Celtics, especially since the Boston Celtics at that point had a really bad shooting night from three, he knew that there's one more leeway that the Raptors can use to make this a game, and he just went full throttle into that. So kudos to him for understanding that, as well as making the right reads to whoever is needed to make the most effective shot. Now, speaking of shots though, shout out to Jakob Poeltl too, because his shot selection was off the charts today. And honestly, even though I expected at this point being who he is and the way he plays, it really still surprises me, because in the NBA, it's really hard to come by centers who's really committed to actually play as a center would play, you know what I mean? Because most centers nowadays in the NBA would like to shoot threes and things of that nature, and no harm in that, because that is where the league is going. But to have a center like Jakob Poeltl who just wants to do the grit and grindy and do everything that the center wants to do, it's really impressive to me, because it's something that I wouldn't say is undervalued, but it's something that it should always be kept in the NBA scene, because that is what truly a center is. And honestly, I feel like that if there's more people like Jakob Poeltl who likes to do actually what a center does, it will just make more NBA teams more formidable, and the competition will grow as a whole. So shout out to him for doing everything in his power to help the team attempt to win, and hopefully he'll continue to get stronger with the games to come, and hopefully we'll be able to benefit off him as the season continues and into future seasons. Now, the way the NBA can benefit off the code crack that the Raptors did against the Boston Celtics in their recent game really ties into the Raptors' improvements that they could do going into the future, because in both cases, what they need to do is be very aggressive and get the Boston Celtics in foul trouble, and two, they need to hit their free throws as much as possible. Because when you really think about it, what the Boston Celtics is going to do is, the whole playstyle is to shoot threes as a collective and try to shoot their way out of the game. And honestly, if they have a bad shooting night, this is just one more thing that the opponent can use to really make their mark. And with more formidable teams, whether that be the New York Knicks, the Timberwolves, the Mavericks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Phoenix Suns, the list goes on and on. All these formidable teams that have aspirations to be champions. If they can somehow force the Boston Celtics to have a bad shooting night on a daily basis or whenever they face them and capitalize on the amount of inside touches they have as well as the amount of fouls and free throws that they make, I think that is just a recipe that any team can use to ultimately get the win and help them pursue all their championship aspirations that they have as an organization. And honestly, that also applies to the Raptors as well, because for us in this season as Raptors fans, we know that our free throws were, well, they're really lacking a bit, because especially in the clutch or the crunch moments, for some reason we're always a bit off in terms of our free throw. What I mean is that we usually miss our very important free throws, and those misses really cost us the game. So going forward, I hope that not only are we able to attack more and get more foul attempts in the clutch, but more importantly, when we're at the foul line, especially in the fourth quarter being crunch time, we are actually capitalizing off all our free throws, because when we do that, I believe that even with a depleted roster, we'll have a fighting chance to win, and more often than not, we'll be able to turn the tides on any team and not be able to send it to overtime and get the win just off regulation alone. So yeah, overall this game between the Raptors and the Boston Celtics was in plain sight a really interesting game because the game was very tight. But as you look deeper into it, there are many flaws that the Boston Celtics had that many teams in the NBA, especially the high caliber teams, can take advantage of, as well as the Raptors, because don't let our record twist you. We are better than our record. And I believe that as we continue to get this experience from the losses, as well as understand what type of playstyle is needed with every type of player, the chances of having these close games and losses will reduce to the point where we'll be able to know what type of play is needed for what type of situation, and hopefully we'll be able to reap the rewards when that time comes. So yeah, with that being said, if you like this type of video, make sure to give me one of these. Smash that subscribe button and hit that bell. We got a new setup, we got a new mic, we got everything kind of fresh. And until next time, Civ signing out.